Hello, everyone. We're going to be starting today's demo day. So my name is Sophia Phillip. I'm the product manager of the team presenting for today's Nava Labs demo day. We'll be showing a solution we've been prototyping for SNAP work reporting for the state of Maryland. And just to confirm before I go in, can I please get an emoji reaction thumbs up that people can see a purple slide? Great. Thank you. So before we dive in a little about Nava, Nava is a public benefit corporation that works directly with government agencies to change the way people experience government services for the better. Nava got its start as part of the rescue team of healthcare.gov. Nava comes with a deep experience over the last decade, leading some of the most complex modernization at state and federal government agencies. Nava Labs is a philanthropically funded division at Nava. We focus on incubating products, practices, and policy ideas, building evidence, cultivating partnerships, and advocating for adoption of what works. Labs is currently leading Nava's responsible generative AI research and development. Today, we'll show how Document AI, a service delivered through Nava's Strata platform, supports both program operations and reporting. Strata is a modular open source platform that helps government partners like Maryland modernize quickly and effectively without vendor lock-in. Document AI is one of those modules, enabling fast implementation of document classification and validation using AI. For Maryland, this means a solution that is quick to deploy, low burden on staff, and built to generate measurable impact from day one. And now to learn a bit more about our speakers that we'll be hearing from today, Robert Rains from Maryland Department of Human Services has been able to join us. He's a senior IT advisor of data practices and has been an incredible partner in this project so far. As mentioned, I'm the product manager for this team. We'll also be hearing from Princess Ojaku, the design lead, and Lauren Schoolsby, the engineer lead. For the agenda, Robert is going to take us through an overview of the project as well as a key multi-state cohort partnership that's part of our work. Princess will talk through discovery and the work we've done to date as related to research and design. And then we'll shift over to demoing our MVP that we're building with the state of Maryland. I'll close out with what's coming next for our work, and then we'll pass the mic to this audience for Q&A. And with that, Robert, the floor is yours.
Hello, so I'm Robert Rains, and as Sophia mentioned, I work for the Maryland Department of Human Services. For those of you that don't know, we handle a lot of the benefits that some of our residents receive, like SNAP, TANF, WIC, and even non-MAGI Medicaid. We are partnered on the state side with Maryland Benefits, which is the organization within the DOIT, the larger Department of Information Technology at Maryland, that will be implementing this technology that we're about to talk about. We also are partnered with our colleagues at Maryland Department of Health and the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange, where Maryland Health Benefit Exchange does the MAGI Medicaid, and the Maryland Department of Health sort of orchestrates the larger Medicaid implementation within the state of Maryland. So we identified last year that we were going to have some issues coming up, and we partnered with we sought out a grant from the Center for Civic Futures, part of this Public Benefit Innovation Fund. And to do that, we partnered with Nava Labs and APHSA, the American Public Human Services Association, and we'll get into how the roles they play as we go forward. Next slide. Yeah, so what we saw was that with the advent of, or with the oncoming changes from HR1, House Rule Resolution, whatever, one big beautiful bill, we call it HR1, that is going to result in a lot of work verification requirements that didn't exist before. Not only was the definition of what we call an ABOD, or an able-bodied adult without dependents, was expanded to include folks that are much older than they had been before under the definition, but also the definition of work changed. And that's sort of a silver lining. There's a you can consider volunteer work or different forms of work that maybe previously weren't recognized. Unfortunately, that presented a challenge that now we have to figure out how to verify that that is indeed work based on some document that someone submits. And we saw this tsunami of work coming towards our caseworkers who are already working tirelessly. And they were going to need to not only verify these new types of works for a larger group of people, but more frequently. And we thought there's got to be a better way of doing this. If banks have been able to point a camera at a check and tell whether the check is actually a check or a picture of a receipt, or if it's blurry or too dark, they've been doing that for years. We should be able to do something similar. So the result of this, hopefully, in improving our document intake process will be one, we will avoid this crushing load of work on our caseworkers, that we will make sure that the documents that they see are the documents that they need to see just to make the decision. They don't need to deal with mistakes, and that those mistakes are dealt with quickly so that the users don't upload a document and then find out 2 weeks later when they get a letter in the mail that says, hey, that thing that you submitted was too blurry, or you cut something off, and then they're like, oh, I don't know where that went, or shredded it or whatever. So that they'll get feedback in real time. That will, one of the other great features of HR1 is that if there are sufficient problems or errors found in the administration of the benefits, then the state has to come up with the funds to pay for it. And we don't want that to happen, obviously. I mean, we don't want to make mistakes in the first place. And that's one of the benefits we think we will see of this, is that there will be uh, we'll avoid those financial penalties because we'll have fewer errors. That reduction in errors will lead to people getting their benefits faster and not getting kicked off the rolls just because they, forgot to put a signature on some document. Throughout this, though, we recognize that generative AI and machine learning, not as much, but either are both are new technologies, and certainly new as they are applied here, and they have not just perceived risk, but real risk of making mistakes. And we wanted to make sure that that our caseworkers and our customers were entirely in the driver's seat. So at no point will AI be making any decisions about eligibility for benefits. It is simply going to assist the customer in ensuring that they have a document that will meet the needs of the state to verify their income. But if the AI gets it wrong, the user can, well, first of all, the user can opt out of it before it even starts, and their information won't go to AI, and they can just bypass the process entirely. If they don't like the decision that the AI made about or the suggestion that the AI made about the quality of the document, and they're like, you know what, I think it's right, they can just submit it. And then the caseworker will be the one making the decision about whether or not that document meets the criteria. So at no point is AI, taking the steering wheel. It is simply doing some driver assist. We also wanted to make sure that we were measuring the impact across a broad or across different demographics, that we could segment our measurement, because the Public Benefit Innovation Fund funded us in part through a donation from AARP, and we want to honor their contribution by being able to segment the population and identify how elderly folks, or folks that are within the demographic of AARP, which I am rapidly approaching, would benefit from this. So it's not just a matter of making sure that we're doing this right, but being able to see if it is affecting different populations in different ways. Yeah, and finally, I would say the intention of all of this is to build a system that is not just good for Maryland, but that is good for all states. And so we're going to get to in a bit the cohort that we are designing to release this product to a larger audience. Okay, let's go ahead. Yeah, so What are we doing? And I've covered some of this. We're building this AI-powered document verification service. When I first was told about this, I wasn't around when the grant was applied for, but when I was told, hey, you're going to be leading this effort, I thought, oh my goodness, we're going to have to build a lot of stuff. And then I met the people at Nava Labs and realized they had already built a lot of it. And I was so relieved that we were going to be working with them and just working with them to integrate. There is some new development going on, but largely it is a process of integrating it within our system. We are focusing initially on SNAP and non-Magi Medicaid, but only within the income verification document space. There are other like identity documents and so on that we will get to after our MVP, but initially to keep the focus narrow, we're focusing just on income documents. And as Sophia mentioned, this product Doc AI exists within the ecosystem of Strata's product offerings, of which I encourage you to go look at or to look at them more because it's very impressive what they've built. We are, as I said, working with other organizations within the state of Maryland and hoping that as this capability starts paying out, that other organizations within Maryland will be able to take advantage of it too, as it is being built within the Maryland benefits AWS environment. We have a cohort of states that right now I think we have 6, and that will be closing soon within the next week or so. So if you are in another state and another state government and you're working on a similar project and you want to participate in this and more importantly, have a say in how it's built, then please reach out because we would love to get your input on this. I've talked about how we are going to focus on the individual and having AI assisting the individuals working on this, both the users and the caseworkers. One of the things that we're thinking about as we build this for not just Maryland, but for other states, is ensuring that this is a capability that is decoupled enough from the rest of the work that's done that it can be picked up and put in place in another state without a whole lot of work. So we are isolating what Doc AI does. Princess and the rest of the team within Nava Labs are doing a lot of amazing work on looking at how our UI and the Maryland benefits ecosystem looks and how it will need to be adjusted. But that's kind of outside the scope of what we're building within the cohort or what we're going to release to the cohort. Of course, we would share that information, but the technology itself that's really being developed by Nava Labs is just the document evaluation part, not the front end part. Yeah, so I think that's it. And here's the cohort. As I said, we've got a number of states already, and we're looking, if there are a few more that are interested, we would love to have you. And the idea, again, is to build something that is not just for the state of Maryland, but that can be used by a number of other states. Indeed, this is already being used to some extent by the state of Pennsylvania. Not to hammer it too hard, but the impact of HR1 cannot be overstated. And as it comes into force at the end of the year, we want to make sure that we are ahead of that and we have a system in place that will reduce the workload for caseworkers and also make it easier for the users within the state of Maryland to get the benefits that they deserve.
Thank you, Robert, for that overview. And
Sure.
now we're going to pass it to Princess, who's going to walk us through some of the work that we've done to date around research and design.
Thanks, Sophia. Hi, my name is Princess Ojaku. I'm the design lead here at Nava Labs, and I'm going to walk you through some of the discovery and how we started out with Maryland. We just wanted to learn a little bit more about their processes to gain insights and discover possibilities for how document AI could fit with their benefit system. And this was all to make sure that document AI would be an improvement. And to do that, we need to understand the processes of how customers and caseworkers handle documents now. Next slide. So we looked at the current state in Maryland, and that included the customer experience of submitting documents, including when in the application they did that currently. And we also looked at that parallel experience of the caseworkers. and everyone working on that side to process documents and receive those submitted documents. And so the impact is just really understanding how document AI could improve pain points in that process. And so we started really by learning the Maryland customer journey. So you see a screenshot of the application here where someone is uploading documents. We basically just started by going through the one app in Maryland and the application for benefits to see firsthand how and when customers upload documents. It's important to note that Maryland has a unified application, so that means people can apply for a lot of different benefits with just one application. So there's a lot of places where people can upload documents for those applications, and those same documents can be used for different benefits. So that makes it a little easier on the customer. And so we spent time mapping out some of the screens, touch points, and the choices people have to make when they're choosing to add documents and submit their applications. And mapping all of this out helped us understand why and when customers might need to submit their documents and just see it through their eyes. And as we build, we know we're starting out with Maryland, but we want this tool to be usable by across states. And so we're also looking at the similarities and differences between states through that APHSA cohort. So we can get a sense of other states' pain points as well and how their customers are served. And looking at the further at the customer journey and the caseworker journey, back in January, Nava Labs team members did an in-person site visit to a county in Maryland, and they were able to speak with some of the county staff to learn more about their experiences serving customers, their workflows as staff, and how they interact with the state systems and technology in the process of their work. And then coming out of that visit to the county, we were able to create a service blueprint based on what we heard. And that's the screenshot on the left or on the right. And so we were able to create this and validate it with those same staff members and caseworkers as to the process of what happens to documents after they're submitted in the process. So from this, we learned a few things about document submission. We learned that there are a few different methods that customers use to submit documents. They can go in person, where a worker will scan document and they'll get a physical receipt. They can submit them by mail, and they can even submit it by email. So that case happens if the customer prefers, or sometimes if the customer portal online, if they're uploading doesn't work for them, they'll just the caseworkers will tell them to submit over email. So it was important to learn about all these avenues for document submission just to get a sense of the alternatives that customers have currently. And we can keep in mind that they can and might turn to them if document AI isn't easy enough for them to use. We also got a sense of the timing of document submission, at least in the SNAP process. So in SNAP, we learned that customers don't usually submit their documents until after they get a notice from the caseworker, and that usually happens after they have their interview with the caseworker. So that gives us a sense of when customers might submit currently and what pathways they use and how document AI might change those. Again, we know across states there's similarities and differences in the process and the pain points. So again, we're looking to make sure that what we build works for across states as well. Next slide. Great. And then after all of that discovery, we moved into designing the research plan. So we just wrapped up phase 1, where we were looking at the current document upload process. We were talking to Maryland customers directly just to see their experiences with using the current process in Maryland benefits. So we have kind of wrapped up phase 1, and we're moving rapidly into phase 2 of testing the MVP prototype with Maryland customers of Document AI. And so we're going to show a little preview of that a little bit later. We'll talk about that later. And then following testing of the prototype, we're going to move into phase 3. After we implement document AI in Maryland, we will be doing some post-implementation testing as well, just to make sure that everything's working as expected. And again, as we move through these stages, we want to make sure we're here getting feedback from stakeholders as well. With that, I will pass it back to Sophia for the next.
Thanks, Princess. So for the minimal viable product, we're taking an agile approach. As Princess mentioned, we're moving quick. So we're starting small, though, getting something usable in people's hands and iterating based on real feedback. So that first step is an MVP, a version with just the core functionality needed to be useful so we can learn quickly and continue improving over time. Our initial focus in both alongside the discovery research that Princess just spoke to was to align on an MVP that meets user needs without overbuilding and fits Maryland's system and policy constraints. So we facilitated cross-functional alignment with Maryland teams. We made the decision to prioritize income documents as that is the highest impact starting point and use that from a lesson learned of Document AI's implementation in Pennsylvania. So again, those shared learnings to move quicker. We limited data extraction to key fields, so we're really bubbling up what's most important to Maryland benefits team members and stakeholders, and we keep Maryland's database as the system of record for security. The outcome of this is that we were able to validate an MVP approach and delivery strategy quickly. I want to note we kicked off the first week of February, so we have done a ton of work in that time, and part of that has been facilitated by the ready-to-go nature of Document AI, but also pulling from lessons learned across other efforts. This has enabled us to reduce risk and also identify a faster path to pilot. And it sets us up, as noted, for foundation for scaling, not just within Maryland benefits, expanding document types, but also for programs and for the larger vision across states. I'm going to walk us through now a high-level view of the MVP experience we're piloting, as we've decided to focus on a few high-impact changes. Those are consent, real-time feedback from Document AI, and giving users the option to dismiss that feedback. This ensures that we are not overhauling Maryland's existing experience. We want customers to feel familiar as the changes rolled out. We use Strata's Document AI component, which enabled the team to hit the ground running with a vetted and secure starting point. It also allowed us to help focus on Maryland's unique needs as early on in the roadmap as possible, since we had a lot of the templatization and infrastructure already in mind and architecture. We could better understand the unique needs on Maryland's side to complement their system. Again, I just want to reiterate, it's important to note that Document AI is not making any determinations. It simply flags potential issues with uploaded documents to help reduce rework later. Behind the scenes, the document is analyzed for quality, things like file type, blurriness, or missing information. It's processed using optical character recognition, sometimes referred to as OCR, to extract that key data I mentioned and generate confidence scores. The state is able to configure those confidence scores or desired extracted data fields. So we are working with Maryland to identify what are those thresholds, what are those key data needed that is pushed to their main database. And so if a document doesn't meet the state's threshold, the user gets a message and they can either fix the issue or continue on. That data, as mentioned, along with the user actions and is sent to the state system, and the user moves forward in their application. Overall, this helps catch issues earlier, reducing delays for both applicants and caseworkers, and supporting faster access to benefits. And now I'm happy to stop sharing screen so that Princess can to demo our front-end prototypes.
All right, thank you, Sophia. I will start sharing my screen. All right, think everyone can see me?
Yep, confirming I can see your screen.
Great. All right, so we started out with, I'm going to show you a little bit of this prototype today. So this is basically a replica of the current Maryland Benefits One application. So that initial application for benefits on the site. We have replaced it with a Nava Labs and Nava prototype So it doesn't look exactly the same, but this is very similar. And so I'm going to show you a little bit about how Document AI works. So as I'm going through the application, I can select the benefits I'm interested in. For the purposes of this prototype, we haven't put all of the questions in here. So we are skipping ahead, but I would have to usually answer a few more questions before I got to the document upload screen, or the place where I would be able to add documents to my application. So again, this is pretty much what's on the Maryland benefit site. The interaction is going to be a little bit different, as you see. So I'll choose a person to start adding my documents to the site, and I'm here at the upload document screen. So again, this is going to be the interaction that Document AI does. If I add my document, and let's say I'm adding a W-2, I will select it, and I see that my document's being analyzed here. And once I get a result, I see that I've got a result that it seems blurry and it might not be accepted by the caseworker. So as a user, I have a few choices here. I can cancel and remove the document. I'm not blocked from submitting anyway. I can scroll down and hit next and go to the next spot if I'm done adding documents. And I can also replace it. Since I've got this message, I'm going to look and replace it with a new one. I'll try a different W-2. Again, I see the message that it's being processed by Document AI. And after a little bit of a wait, I now see that my document is clear and readable, and I know this was better. And so again, I can cancel or move on, or even add to other parts of the application as well. So I just showed a demo of uploading a single file, or one at a time. And I'm going to pass it to Lawrence next to show a demo of uploading multiple files. So stop sharing and I'll pass it over to Lawrence.
Great. Thank you, Princess. Hello, everyone. My name is Lawrence Goolsby. I am a software engineer here at Nava Labs. So one of the first use cases that we had for Document AI was processing a document in real time. And as we continued to build and develop upon it, we found that that wasn't necessarily the only use case that's out there. There's also a need to be able to process documents as a group or like a batch or a zip file. So what I'm going to walk through today is something that we're in the process of building. You'll see over here, I have a tool that's known as Postman. It's a tool that we use as developers to interact with our backend APIs. We don't necessarily have a front end for it just yet, but that's something that we will be working on in the future. So here I have a zip file with documents, and right now I am taking that zip file and passing it over to Document AI, at which point it's going to unzip the zip file, take a look at all of the files that are within that zip, validate that they are the types that we expect them to be, that the file size is appropriate, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what it's going through at the moment. Takes for this file maybe about 30 seconds, I would say. So we should see a response here pretty soon. So what we'll see there we go. So what we can see here is that Document AI gave me a response based on the zip file that I sent over. And it detected that the zip file contained 39 separate documents. Again, the documents names aren't very descriptive, but that's okay in this case. So we'll see a mix of JPEGs, PDFs, etc. We'll also, once we submit the batch, obtain an identifier that we can then use to inquire on the status of what we submitted. So again, I uploaded one zip file, it extracted 39 different files, and now it's starting to process through all 39 of these files concurrently to see what type of document it is, what kind of data we can extract. So moving over to another endpoint, I can actually call or investigate the status of this batch to see how things are going. And as we can see here, there are 39 total jobs that have been expected or submitted, actually. So all of them have been submitted. Nothing is completed yet, but the classification is ongoing. So I can continue to pull for the status of the batch as a whole. And as we do that, we should see some of these start to complete here pretty soon. I haven't used this environment in a while, so it may take a second or two, but we'll keep pulling it here momentarily. Okay, great. So now we can see that 3 of the 39 have completed, good for 7.7%. Some have been classified already. So within that zip file so far, it's detected an employment verification letter, a passport, and an I-94 form. Again, these are running concurrently, so we should see them start to complete here in a minute. Great, we're up to 21 completed. So we're a little bit more than halfway through. Again, we're seeing some additional classifications that are happening, some passports, some driver's licenses. So we're starting to get some idea of the types of documents that were located in this zip file. 87%, there you go. So this endpoint basically gives us the overall summary of all of the documents that we submitted. We can then inquire further to see what information was actually pulled from the document. So let's see, we have a couple of driver's licenses in here. I have a passport. So if I take this identifier, which is corresponding to document 10, I can then actually get the details about what was extracted from this document. In doing that, we can see that, I believe this was document 10. We can see that the job is completed. I can zoom in if you need me to. We can see that it took about 28 seconds to process. There was some cold start time in there. We can see that it detected passports, place of birth. So you'll notice here we have a confidence value, a confidence score rather, along with the value that was extracted. And I believe this was document 10. Is that right? I believe so. Let me pull over document 10. There we go. I think that's document 10. Yes. Okay. So if we pull over document 10 and look at these side by side, we can compare the document that was uploaded with the information that was extracted from the document. So we can see here that we have for the place of birth, which is here. Zoom in a little bit. We can see the document number, which is here. And 91% confidence level there. And date of issue, again, we're seeing here the 10th of October. Sorry, the 28th of October, my apologies, 2010. So it's able to take this 28 Oct 10 and understand that this is the format that we are expecting in the response. And first name, last name was detected, and the MRZ code, which lives down here. Also the expiration date. This is expired. So there's that. Taking a look at another document, just to show you what else can be extracted. I believe there was a driver's license within here as well. Okay. Document 7, again, as part of this batch, classified as success, which means we were able to extract information from it, and we detected driver's license. So looking at that job specifically, again, we should see, okay, that's great. And let me pull over document 7. One moment. Left. And right. Great. Okay. So we can see here that it detected a driver's license. It took about 24 seconds to complete. We have a middle name, which it extracted, which is interesting here because here there's not a specific call out for a middle name. But the document AI service is smart enough to recognize that this is indeed the middle name. Same thing with last name. We also have first name in here. There's no state. I'm not here for controversy. DC apparently is not a state, so recognize that. Also, the identification number 502 we see is correct, 82% hair color. Some of the other things that we have noticed, which this is something we would potentially flag for someone to take a look at, is the height that it detected. It was only 11% confident in what it extracted. However, looking here, we can also see that it is accurate. 5 feet, 1 inch, which is what we see here. So while this may be flagged, like, hey, we need someone else to take a look at this, it was extracted as I think we would expect. Washington zip code, again, it does pull the last 4, the 4504 as well. So that is a quick demo of Document AI in terms of like sending files over as a collection. This should certainly, the goal is to kind of speed things up. So if there's a set of files somewhere and we want to process those, not in real time, then we have the ability to do that as well. So that is that demo. The next thing I think we're going to jump into is, and Sophia, do you want to take the screen back so we can talk about the architecture?
That would be great. Thanks, Lawrence.
Cool. Do you need me to stop or?
Yeah, if you don't mind stopping share, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So talking about the architecture a little bit. So this is the back-end architecture diagram. We are using AWS as the back-end, and we worked really closely with Maryland to really understand their architecture. With AWS, there are a number of different ways that you can architect services. We wanted to make sure we were doing things, that aligned best with Maryland's way of working. So there we designed a serverless framework, kind of taking what we have in our open source platform and basically making an event-based architecture. So once a file is uploaded, that kicks off an event which starts the processing of extracting the information from the document. And then once the data is extracted, that writes the output somewhere for us to read. And then that basically gives us another event that the processing is complete. So by having an event-based architecture, we know, again, as soon as the file is written, that some event will take place, whether it's processing the file for extraction or hopefully reading the extracted values back. So we've tried to build things, or we did build things in a very decoupled fashion. And we know that, different states may have different needs. So ultimately, and we know that not every state is going to look like Maryland. I think Robert mentioned earlier that we implemented something similar in Pennsylvania. And the architecture is more or less the same, the core pieces of it, but there are some slight nuances there. So we do have some flexibility, and we've designed it that way. And we understand that it's not a one size fits all. So, the more that we continue to work on this, the more that we understand different use cases, how, people envision this tool to be used. And all the feedback has been, really helpful and insightful for us to continue to improve upon what we have and adapt to different environments. So yeah, that is the architecture diagram there with some AWS services. For the extraction, we are using Amazon Bedrock Data Automation, which I believe is that blue box right in the center there. And there are some Lambdas, and you'll see some other, or no, sorry, that's Dynamo. It's in the upper right-hand corner. My apologies. The light blue box, teal, I suppose. And then we're using Amazon's S3 for storage as well. And that's the architecture.
Great. Thanks, Lawrence. I think it's always important to talk about how are we building this securely. So our approach is centered on a secure state-owned infrastructure deployed in a state-managed AWS environment with controls like S3, IAM, and VPCs. These are core AWS tools that make this system secure. So for those less familiar, S3 stores data, IAM controls who can access it, and VPC keeps everything in a private protected network, so only authorized users and systems can interact with it. We also provide configurable data retention and storage policies so states maintain full control. Sensitive documents like the example ones that Lawrence just showed that contain PII or PHI in some instances are processed, but they are not retained by Document AI. We also maintain full audit logging of document processing and AI activity to support transparency and compliance with federal and state requirements. Finally, I think it's always worth repeating, AI is used to support review for this use case of document AI. It is not making an eligibility decisions. Users must consent to its use and can dismiss its assessments. This and the states as well retain control over the rules, thresholds, and system configuration. So now we've talked about what we've done so far and how we thought through it. What's next? As mentioned, and where we walked you through, we focused on alignment and discovery in these past few months to build a foundational understanding of Maryland's current system and align the MVP approach. Next, we will build, deploy, and test iterations in sandbox environments and prepare for a phased pilot rollout across the state of Maryland. Iterations of the user experience will be informed by customer and caseworker feedback. Additionally, we'll be getting feedback from the multi-state cohort to inform the design as well, allow them to test document AI, and also to help other states prepare for implementations like Maryland is doing with document AI. I think it's important to emphasize that our goal is not to rebuild, it's to work smarter. So we're building on a proven open source solution like Document AI powered by the Strata platform and are partnering with states like Maryland. We're eliminating wasted effort, we're moving faster and ensuring policy compliance and usability are built in from day one. That's how we deliver stability and confidence at scale. This project is ongoing, so we'll continue to hold demo days and post about it in our newsletter. So I encourage you all, please follow along with our progress with these sites linked here. And just want to say a huge thank you to the team for presenting and for Robert joining us today. And I encourage you all, for those who haven't already, please use the Q&A button in Zoom to send us your questions. If you don't see it, please select the More button. I'm going to stop sharing to check out what's known in the chat. I know some folks have already asked questions, some we've responded to. I think it's important to reiterate for those who asked what kind of issues are able to be flagged in the document upload step. And for this MVP criteria, we are focusing on document type, blurriness, fields being cut off or missing. As we iterate on the MVP throughout the pilot, we are absolutely building out a backlog of what additional improvements might be made or additional criteria requirements can be added to augment document AI's efficacy. And a huge shout out to my team who has also been answering questions in the Q&As we've been presenting. Give me one moment. And I think, Lawrence, this one might be a good one for you to field. Is it part of the plan to write the output of these functionalities via API to the Maryland backend, or is this mostly customer facing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think ultimately, again, document AI is meant to be ephemeral, meaning we're not retaining these documents or the output for very long. So yes, the goal is to take what we have extracted and give it back to Maryland so that it lives in their system of record. That's something that we've spoken with them about. We haven't implemented that just yet, but that is part of the plan.
Great. And keep yourself unmuted. I think the next one as well is coming your way. How is missing information from the document defined and identified?
Yeah, great question. So once we do the extraction, there's a value and a confidence score that comes along with it. So if the value comes back as blank, right, that is like, and a confidence score is fairly high, then the service is basically saying, look, I'm very confident that there's nothing here. So we've implemented some rules differently, right? So just because one field is missing doesn't necessarily mean the entire document is bad, right? So there's some logic there that we can modify, right? So if one field out of 10 is bad, right, do we want to reject the document? I imagine the answer is no. When we first rolled this out in Pennsylvania, we were that strict, at least through some of the development pieces. Then we found that, no, we are rejecting okay documents. Yes, there may be one field, but caseworkers still want this to go through and to be extracted. So I guess long story short, we take a look at the value that's extracted. If there is nothing there and it's very, very confident, we take a look at how many fields are missing information. And then we use that as a determination to say, okay, this document is a good document or this document could be completely blank, or it's just one field. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question? I hope so.
Yeah, and Robert, I think you wanted to jump in as well.
Sure. Yeah, and I was going to say, and part of the design is that determination of what constitutes a good document is made by the state and passed to Doc AI with a configuration that says this file, or this level of confidence, or this field can be missing. And we have ideas about future state where we can have maybe an LLM make even suggestions or assessments. But right now we're focused just on that confidence score and blank, not blank.
Thanks, Robert. And Princess, I think there's a question here around how does testing with real users or real scenarios work? If you'd like to cover.
Yes, thanks. For phase one that we just wrapped up, we were able to recruit actual Maryland customers. So that's done is either people who had applied for benefits, tried applying, maybe also were receiving benefits. And we were able to share with them like a test version of the site so we could walk through and then see how they use the current version of the site. And that was just to see, where they got confused, things like that. And so we're going to continue to do that in the next phase with the prototype. It's going to be really similar. We're going to find like the same group of people and just have them walk through the prototype and it's not quite a real scenario. It's a simulation, but it's very close to what they would experience if they were actually using the site and applying for benefits. And I think the closest thing to a real scenario is going to be phase 3 when we actually integrate it and are doing post-implementation testing. We'll be also not even just talking to people, but we'll also be looking at some of the metrics and seeing how people behave. And so we'll have some more like hard data, I guess, about what's happening with people and how they're doing.
I think building off of that mention of metrics, I saw the question of, is there a set evaluation plan? What are the most important measures for success for this project? So we are currently still refining some of those metrics. I think a lesson learned that also we'll be engaging with the multi-state cohort about is there are metrics we can gather that are product specific for Document AI. So around the message returned, valid, invalid, how often is a customer dismissing it or actually acting upon re-upload. But additionally, building up the relationships and necessary data pipelines with the state agency you're working with to provide that platform level data or program specific data to understand once the document passes through Document AI, what happens next? What happens to this case level? And working with them to ensure we're respecting the appropriate data privacy, but can still gather those metrics on outcomes. So at a high level for the metrics we're prioritizing for, it's very much informed by, as Robert noted, our partnerships with Center for Civic Futures and Public Benefit Innovation Fund, and with the funding of AARP. We're really interested in along demographics, how are different subpopulations using Document AI? How does it impact their rate to determination, the need for rework later down the line? We're also very interested to understand how we can better learn about caseworker burden following Document AI. We're still working through how to set up those data pipelines, and we'll have a future demo day on that as well. So I ask you hold tight. We'll definitely have more details to share later on. And just taking a moment to look at the questions. Great question coming around, will the tool process documents that were scanned in the office or uploaded, considering that our documents are received through different sources? That is a great question, especially when thinking about designing a scaled pilot or MVP and iterating on it. For the MVP, we're going to focus on the document upload experience that is done by the customer during the one application or where they've never started an application before. Also, maybe they have started an application before and have come back and are looking at the customer dashboard view and can upload a document. They will be able to use Document AI there. And then also for MBR or the redetermination view. So there are 3 upload touch points that we'll be testing Document AI in. And again, that's leaning into approaching this as an agile MVP. We're keeping the scope tight to ensure that Document AI is delivering on the outcomes and performing as expected before we roll out as well. And I think we, for those moments where you have additional upload touch points, that is where setting up those partnerships early on to understand what is happening on the back end to create those connections, and what would it take for Document AI to be plugged in and be helpful for those alternative upload touch points. So again, just to close out, we're keeping our focus small to validate early, and then as we validate the outcomes, we'll expand to other areas. But I think for now we'll be focusing on the online upload experience done by the customer. But thank you for definitely hearing out, I think, where the customers are, and that they will go to the upload experience that works best for them. So we always want to make sure they have support in whichever way they show up. And taking more to scan Q&A, Princess, Lawrence, if there, or Robert as well, if there are any you'd like to speak to, you're welcome to pop on in. And wait. I see one around building a prototype of the front end for the caseworker experience of evaluating the document extraction, approving, denying. So I encourage you, our Oscar team has worked on prototyping for what Document AI might look like, as well as additional platform support for responding to HR1 Medicaid requirements, and creating a prototype specifically for the caseworker. So our Oscar team, OSCER, from Nava, they also have demo days as well, and you're welcome to look them up online to learn more about that. But as you may have noted from this project, as well as Oscar, we are trying to really understand holistically how we can provide support from different stakeholder perspectives and getting them the tools and support, whether through AI, whether through a front end, at the right time for them when they need to respond most promptly to these new requirements with HR1.
Yeah, and then I can take a question in the chat as well, or in the QA. There's a question about whether it would be able to detect a document that may be fake, or someone tried to delete information or whiteout. As of now, we are focused on the extraction piece of it, but we have talked about, once we extract the data, is there something that we can take a look at, something that is inconsistent potentially with the document, right? So I guess the short answer is, as the service stands today, we're primarily focused on extraction, but there are other opportunities for us to look into those types of things, to say that, this field may have been modified or may not be original, or, somebody whited out a 0 on the end or something like that. So again, not yet, something we have talked about.
Yeah, I would think it sort of falls into, there's like extraction and then assessment, where first you're extracting the data out of it, then you're assessing what that data means. Like, did this actually describe the person's job, or was it a grocery list? And then beyond that, we can look at more and more rare, hopefully, use cases like fraud detection or something like that. But I would think to the left of fraud detection would be, is this even about the right person? Like, maybe somebody's uploading, or they've got 2 different notes and they put it about the wrong person. You might want to look in there and say, oh, wow, I see this is about so-and-so, but you're submitting this about this other person. Did you say the wrong thing? And that would probably be more productive than looking for fraud detection. Not because fraud is not important, but because it's a complicated thing, and it might be better left entirely to a caseworker until we have a good handle on how to support it with AI.
True. And I did want to get to Abby's question. I didn't scroll up far enough. So the question is, for the data extraction capability, is this intended to help applicants auto-populate their applications, or will it be more so used to help state reviewers on the back end see? And I think this is one of the beauties about Document AI. So what we will do is we will extract the information and return it. So depending on the system, if they want it to be a caseworker facing tool, then great. Or if they want to take the information that's extracted from the document and pre-populate an application, that can be done as well. This is purely just, you give it a document and it will tell you what it extracted, and how you handle that information that comes back is completely up to, how it is implemented. So it can be used in both ways. Or it could just be used to say, is this a quality document? Yes or no. So we tried not to, build it for like a specific use case, but very general, right? Here's document A. Thank you. Here are the results from document A. Do whatever you want with it. Pre-populate, caseworker, say whether it's good or bad, etc.
Yeah, and I'm really happy with that decision because it allows us as the state of Maryland to determine, how we want to use it without having to too tightly integrate with Doc AI. If later there's another service that does the same thing but gets back the data better or does something else, we can switch over to that, and we don't have to like rip out all the code that Doc AI was, reaching into our system and making these updates.
I think that's a perfect place to close today. And also, I think something we will be exploring in phase two as Princess leads research on customer and caseworker feedback and understanding what are additional needs that we might consider for document AI? What might other stakeholders on the other side of Maryland benefits that the customer isn't necessarily directly interacting with? How might they benefit from how document AI is showing up and interacting in the Maryland system? So as mentioned, we will have future demo days. We really look forward to having you join us along that journey. And of course, if you weren't able to join today or future ones, all these are recorded and shared on YouTube. And I encourage you all, check out the link shared in the chat, whether you're interested in joining the multi-state cohort, as we are still have open spots and are accepting state agencies to join. As well as checking out Oscar, which I would say is same, but different, offering document AI surface capability, but meeting the other side of HR1 with Medicaid response. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day and looking forward to continuing sharing updates on this work.